I love music, all music. Led Zeppelin, Taylor Swift, Miles Davis, Nicki Minaj, Hans Zimmer, the Beatles, even a crazy nutballs like Kanye, or the world's favorite child companion. That means that you're going to be buying some form of audio product for the rest of your life. Earbuds, headphones, speakers, soundbars. I've wasted a lot of money on buying the wrong audio products. And the amount of products that are available has become ridiculously overwhelming. Combine that with the giant amount of influencers out there and opinions and the user reviews. The odds of being able to find the right product for my taste, really a gambling game these days.
Welcome to the Hi-Fi Cave. Today, we're going to talk about phones, and we're going to talk about bitches!
That was my little puppy Marshall. So what's the payoff in knowing this language? Now, if you want to skip straight to the cheat sheet and understanding all these terms, just jump to this timestamp. Knowing what you like in terms of sound flavor and being able to describe it, well, in my case, it allows me to pick the right product based on the description I read in the reviews. And this will really maximize the odds of making the right choice and avoid losing more money on the wrong product. And I always see products with 4 or 4.5 stars out of 5, and they have hundreds of submitted reviews. And often there's always going to be a chunk of those reviews that give 1 star with comments like, "Oh, it sounds awful. Save your money."
For example, look at this crap. My wife bought these pairs of USB speakers on Amazon. They're still here. They're just under $15. But look at the reviews. They've sold over 10,000 of these in the past month. All right, 76,000 plus submitted user ratings. It is 4.4 stars out of 5. This should be amazing. People are saying positive on sound quality, positive on value for the money. What? You have 4,300 total amounts of people that are saying comments on sound quality, and out of those 4,300, 3,400 saying it's amazing, but 849 are saying it's shit. Sound exactly the same as the sound of my built-in laptop speakers. Okay, that's garbage. Awful in every way. My largest issue is the audio quality. It sounds entirely hollow. So which ones would I relate to here? Well, having purchased these speakers and having heard them at my wife's office, to me, this is not good value for the money. This is throwing away $15 because they sound absolutely horrible. And I agree with all the negative comments in terms of the audio quality. But what the heck? 71% of 71,000. So there's 50,000 5-star reviews on these things. 50,000. Did they really sell 10,000 of these last month? So that there's 10,000 people right now that are sitting at their desk?
5 stars.
This was the best $15 I've ever spent. Meanwhile, they're listening to absolute tin can, hollow, nothing sounds like a human voice. It's horrible.
And what I think sounds good will probably sound horrible to someone else somewhere in the world, guaranteed. For example, people who love salty food will review a salty dish as being amazing, but people who are sensitive to salt will hate the dish. Some people don't even realize that it's salty. They're just used to it being salty. So in other words, how do I know if I should trust the volume of positive reviews or if I should trust the few negative reviews?
So I don't pay attention to volume of reviews anymore. To me, that's completely useless. You got bots and you got paid people that are writing a bunch of gibberish. So who cares about the volume anymore? I look for specific user reviews, both on the positive and on the negative side, that are actually going to mention things that are specific or nuanced. So a bad review that says, the sound of these little speakers from Amazon actually sounds thin, hollow, little to no bass, and the voices sound a little metallic. Now there's something that I'm going to pay attention to.
Learn the language. If you don't understand the terms that are used to describe the nuances, well, how are you supposed to know how that's going to translate to what you like? So give me a few minutes of your time, and I will share my understanding of this language, which, by the way, both audiophiles and musicians use, but will serve you when deciding on your next purchase. I find it also helps navigate discussions around music instruments too. Because yeah, not all guitars sound the same. Many guitars have a different sound profiles. So do amplifiers. Heck, you know the language, you might even be able to spot bad products based on what some of the sales reps are describing. So here's a little story. My son has always been a fan of Katy Perry for his entire life. After catching one of her concerts a few weeks back, my son came to me at the end of the concert and said that the sound actually didn't sound great. He says that there was actually too much bass. He wanted more treble. Really? I said, I found it that the sound was like really sharp in the highs. And actually the bass to me sounded very bloated. Well, my son just stood there, stared at me like I was crazy. And I bet you just did too. So I asked him, I said, what did you think sounded bad? The instruments or the voices? And then he said, her voice. Bingo. So now we had the same perception, because I agreed. There was something off about the voice. So why my son said treble? Well, that's because that's all he knows. He knows between treble and the bass, because that's what he's been exposed to so far. And some of the keywords that you'll hear in the audio language to describe vocals are things like warm, bright, detailed, muffled, transparent, airy, textured, crisp, smooth, blah, blah, blah. So to simplify how to understand this, I use two axes of sound. So the first axis and the second axis vertically. Axis 1, on one side, you have warm sound. On the other, you have a bright sound. So why don't we use the word cool instead of bright? Wouldn't it make sense? Generally speaking, problem is cool is not always a term that's used in the audio language. Most of the time, it's bright. It's a language. It's like trying to explain why the French language applies a male or female term to objects. It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. Now, the second axis, the vertical axis, is related to the detailed range or a relaxed. So it goes from relaxed being to detailed. Again, you'll come across synonyms of the terms I'm giving you today. Both these axes create essentially 4 areas of sound flavor. Now, if you go in extremes on any of these areas, it's going to sound awful. It's all about balance. Let me give you an example. Listen to this track.
I hurt myself today.
Now listen to the same track, but with a lot of warmth added to it.
I hurt myself today.
You feel the bass, but you can't hear the treble as good. Now listen to it with way too much brightness.
I hurt myself today.
You hear the treble, but you couldn't feel the bass as much. Feeling versus hearing. Some parts of the sound I feel, and some parts I hear. And music is amazing when I have both. Now, conceptually, the best sound would be to find products that are completely neutral. Perfect balance of feeling versus hearing. This means the product would be right in the middle of both axes. Perfect balance of the 4 areas of sound flavors. Well, that's extremely rare. And on top of it, neutrality is very subjective. Remember my example about salty foods? Well, if you enjoy salty foods, your version of what is acceptable saltiness is going to be very different than someone who's sensitive to salt. It's the same with sound. If you're sensitive to high frequencies, your version of what you consider neutral will be different than someone who is very sensitive to bass frequencies. We all have different tastes. So let's look at each areas of sound. We're going to start with the first area. This is where you have a mix of warm and detailed. This is where it feels real. I love this area. This is where the following terms are going to be used. Textured, engaging, organic, punchy. And the word feel comes up a lot. You'll feel the breath. You'll feel the strings. You hear the details of the singer's voice, meaning the words are going to sound clean, but I feel the subtle breath on the microphone. And when both are combined, the detail and the feel, that gives a sense of presence and realism. Generally, this area is really going to max out the enjoyment of music genres like acoustic or folk, like James Taylor, blues, like Eric Clapton Unplugged or Buddy Guy, or well-recorded classic rock, like Dire Straits or Pink Floyd. Live recordings of jazz clubs, too, also is really fun in this area. Now, area number 2 is more warm and relaxed. This is going to feel smooth. Here you'll find words like lush, warm, bloom, rounded, intimate. And this type of sound makes me melt in my chair, and I can listen for hours and hours at loud volumes and never get any fatigue. And the music genres that I like in this area are going to be things like classic jazz and vocals, like old Miles Davis or Diana Krall, Ella Fitzgerald. Things like soul or old school R&B like Marvin Gaye. Lounge like Stan Getz, or acoustic singer-songwriter stuff like Norah Jones or Nick Drake. Now, area number 3, this is where things are bright and relaxed. So it'll feel smooth and breezy. This area is described with words like clear, spacious, lean, effortless, open, and refined. You get a light sparkle of detail and that resolution without the sting in your ear. So if you like to hear a lot of the details but still have a bit of feeling, this is an area that's for you. And it works really well with genres like ambient or electronic music like Brian Eno or Bonobo, even pop music, but like Coldplay, or soft indie music like Cigarettes After Sex. It's also pretty good with world and new age music, kind of like Enya. And the fourth area is bright and detailed. So this is where things feel analytical and fast. This sounds crisp. It'll feel like there's a lot of treble energy. And it's a very much edge of your seat type of listening with air. It's a sensation of spaciousness. But if you push it too far in this area, it's going to become fatiguing. And listening over long periods of time, especially at loud volumes, it's going to be very difficult because sound will become aggressive. As a matter of fact, if it is aggressive, it's impossible at loud volumes. And this area can be a lot of fun if it's well balanced with very high quality recordings. But unfortunately, with poor quality recordings, it becomes ear-piercingly bad. So if you buy a product in this area that is of good quality and good balance, you'll hear that the following genres sound good on it. Classical and orchestral music, like the Beethovens, the very large-scale stuff. Modern jazz fusion, like Snarky Puppy. Metal, yeah, like Metallica. If it's well-balanced, Metallica's going to sound awesome. Or EDM and trance, like Daft Punk. Awesome in this type of category. Even acoustic instrument guitar playing, like Tommy Emmanuel. Very good. Remember, all these areas can sound bad. If you push it to the extreme, like the more detail you want, the more it'll get fatiguing and eventually it'll become aggressive. The more bass you want, eventually it'll lead to boominess or a muffled sound. Knowing how to navigate this language does not make you an audiophile. It simply equips you in being able to describe what you like in terms of sound. And each four of these areas of sonic flavor can be easily adjusted if you have an equalizer. Have a look at an example of what an equalizer curve looks like for each of these types of sound.
Okay, these are a little bit exaggerated and a little bit off, but it's just to give you an idea, to give you contrast.
And I hope I helped some of you get started in understanding the audiophile lingo. Don't be an audiophile. Just enjoy the music. Know how to describe the music so that you can relate to others like you what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like. Might help you make a better buy in the future. If you like the content, subscribe, give me a like, give me a comment down below. Guaranteed I forgot something. Remember, this was for people who are starting out. All of you experts out there, feel free to tell me in the comments what I missed and how wrong I am. Catch y'all later.